In this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly how I use Monzo pots to save money faster and how you can do the same thing. At the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what you shouldn't be using Monzo pots for, so stick around to find out what that is. But before we get into that, let's talk about what you should be using Monzo pots for. For anyone who doesn't know, Monzo is an online challenger bank which lives within an app. When you log on to the app, it kind of looks a little bit like a traditional online banking system, but there are lots of extra features that Monzo has. And one of the amazing features that Monzo has is the pot system. Pots are separate areas within your Monzo account where you can put money and keep it separate from the money that's in your main account. When you set up a pot, you can customize it. You can give it its own pot name. You can give it a profile picture. You can set individual savings goals for each pot. And you can also lock a pot, which prevents you from accessing it easily. And you can also pay for things using your individual pot. So for example, if you had a groceries pot and you went to a supermarket and you wanted to pay using that groceries pot, you can do that as long as you have your Monzo account set up with Google Pay or Apple Pay, and you can pay for your groceries straight out of your groceries pot. And that makes it really easy to keep your money separate and organized. So I'm going to tell you the pots that I use in my savings account. But before I do that, I just want to say that I've been using pots for about a year. And before that, I really struggled to save because I would, at the beginning of the month, transfer my savings into my savings account. And the thing is, I would keep pulling money back out of the savings account anytime I wanted to buy something if I didn't have money for it in my current account. And the reason being is that I didn't really have respect for the two separate accounts that I had. I had my current account and I had my savings account, but I would just dip into my savings account so often that it was just like having a second current account. And I think that was because I wasn't intentional with my savings. And then the more that I did that, the more that I actually lost respect for the boundary between the two accounts, which led to me just doing it more and more and more. And then because I kept dipping into my savings account, obviously I wasn't able to save as much money. When I wanted to buy something, because the money wasn't clearly earmarked or labeled, I kind of forgot what I was even saving for. And this amnesia was heightened by being in an emotional state of just wanting this thing so badly that I would just completely forget why I was even saving money in the first place. But since I started using Monzo pots, my mindset has completely changed. And this is because saving in Monzo pots allows you to be really specific and intentional with your savings. Because I label my pots and give them a cover photo and set savings goals, it means that I get a constant reminder of what I'm saving up for every time I access my account. That makes it really hard to forget and end up spending my savings on things like shoes and clothes. The beauty of using saving pots, which are similar to sinking funds, is that you can save for expenses, for large expenses, slowly over time. So that means you can avoid getting into credit card debt over large expenses. For example, if you have a car repairs pot and you put a little bit of money aside in it every month, that means if your car breaks, then you've got that money set aside and you don't have to put it on a credit card and then end up having to pay 20% interest because you don't have the money set aside. If you're wondering what pots to create, that's really all down to personal preference. I would suggest looking back over the past year and just having a think about expenses that you had, maybe things like holidays, Christmas, birthdays, anything like that, and then create a list of these things and then create a pot for each of them and then just start saving. Now, in case you're interested, I'm going to show you the pots that I use now. My pots do change over time. For example, I used to have a flooring pot because I wanted to pay for laminate flooring for my flat and that cost almost £2,000. So I slowly saved over time and then I got my floor done and I didn't have to put that on credit or anything like that. I had the money put aside. And because now I've saved the money, I've got my floor done, I've deleted the pot because I don't need it anymore. So the first pot that I have is my emergency savings pot, and that's where I'm saving and aiming to get to 6 months worth of outgoing so that I know that I've got that in case anything happens. I can cover all of my bills for 6 months. I'm not quite there yet in terms of my savings goal. However, I'm putting money into that pot every month and hopefully I will reach that goal soon. I used to have a lot more pots before I recently combined them into an emergency savings pot. I used to have one for my mortgage payments, one for my council tax, one for my insurance payments, but I decided to amalgamate all of those because having lots of pots just wasn't really working for me anymore. But when I first started off, I found that very, very helpful because it kind of looked like I had less money saved because I was only had 2 months worth of mortgage payments, or only had 1 month's worth of council tax payments. So it felt like I had less money, so I wanted to save more and more and more. So that could be demoralizing to some people, but it really gave me motivation to save more. That might be a good option for you, but otherwise you can keep it quite simple and just have one for your emergency fund. The second pot that I have is a bills pot, and that's not really a sinking fund. That's just where I put all of my money to cover my bills for the month. So each month I get paid, I look on my budget spreadsheet, which I've made a video about previously, and I will put a link to that in the description box. So then I know the exact figure that I need to set aside for my bills the upcoming month. I take that amount and I put it in my Monzo bills pot. I like to do that so that I know the money is ring fenced and it won't get spent or lost in my current account at all. And that works really, really well for me. I think that you can also pay for your bills out of your Monzo pots through direct debit, but I'm not sure how to do that yet. I'm going to look into it soon because that would be a really good time saver, I think, for me, because I'm transferring money back and forth quite a lot at the moment. The third pot that I have is a tax pot. So people who are subscribed to my channel or have watched my videos before may know that I'm training to be a lawyer at the moment, so I am employed and I have a monthly salary. However, I also do some freelance work, which means that I get paid and then I have to pay the tax to the government myself. So every time I get paid, I put a certain percentage of the money I get paid into a tax account. Then I know that I've got the money put aside, and then once a year I can pay my tax bill. I've just had to pay a tax bill at the end of January, so that account is looking a bit depleted, but it's such a great feature, and I love having this tax pot because I know that the money's safe and that I've got enough money to pay the tax man, because they don't like it when you don't pay them. I could end up in prison if I didn't pay my tax, and what can I say, orange is not a good colour on me. So the fourth pot that I have is a holidays pot, and kind of obvious, that's where I save for holidays. I had £500 in that account, but last week I bought a flight. So I'm going on holiday in April. If anyone can guess where I'm going, then leave the destination in the comments and I'll let you know if you're right or not. The fifth pot that I have is a Christmas and presents pot. So if I put, say, £30 away in the pot every month, I'll have about £360 by the end of the year, which just makes paying for Christmas so much less stressful. Like I said, I used to have a lot more pots, but I've recently streamlined them. You can have similar ones, or you can have a lot more, or you can have a lot less. It all really depends on you and what you want to save for. So how do you know how much money you've got to save every month? I used to put money into my savings account, and then I'd end up having to need to take some of it back out to pay legitimate bills. And that's because I didn't know how much I genuinely had to save after paying all of my bills and expenses. So to work out how much I can save every month, at the beginning of each month, I use my budget tracker to track my income, list out my outgoings, and whatever I have left after that is the amount that I put into my Monzo account. I do that calculation as soon as I get paid, so I know how much money I can put in my savings account, and then I add it into my budget tracker as an expenses line, because I still count savings as an outgoing. I then move that money into my savings account, which is my Monzo account, so I don't get tempted to spend that money anywhere else. And then when it's in my Monzo account, I then allocate it depending on what I want to save for. So the majority will go towards my 6-month emergency fund pot, and then the rest will go to things like holidays, Christmas, and however I want to distribute it. I made a detailed video about how I budget my paycheck every month, which I'll leave a link to in the description box of this video. So if you go and check that out after this video, I'll show you step by step exactly how I budget my paycheck, and there's also a link over on that video to the exact spreadsheet that I use, which is really easy and simple, and it's a complete game changer, so make sure you go and check that one out. But don't go over there until the end of this video, because now I'm going to explain to you how exactly to set up Monzo saving pots. So the first step is to decide what you're saving up for. The second step is to figure out how much money you need to save in order to reach that savings goal. The third thing that you need to do is work out where you're going to save your money. It could be Monzo, it could be somewhere else. And then don't forget to add a line into your budget tracker so that you know exactly how much you can put in your savings account every month, and pay yourself first. So do that before you do anything else. Now I'm going to explain what you shouldn't be using pots for. Now, I said I was going to tell you this at the beginning of the video. If you stuck around until now, then well done, and please hit the like button so that I know that you've stuck around this long. So now, what shouldn't you be using pots for? And that's long-term savings, and that's because the interest rate is very low on Monzo pots, much lower than inflation. So as the value of money erodes over time, the money in your pots will become worth less than when you put the money into the pot. And that's not a situation that you want to be in, because you're effectively just losing money. The maximum that I want to save is 6 months worth of expenses in an emergency pot, and also saving for things like short to long-term expenses like Christmas and holidays where I need the money quickly. But I'm not going to be using the pots for long-term savings to build wealth for my future. For that, I'm going to be looking into putting my money into investments that will help my money grow over time, not lose value, because I want to become richer, not broker. I hope you found that video helpful. If you did, definitely go and check out this video here, which is the one that I was talking about, where I show exactly how I budget my paycheck as a trainee lawyer, and that contains all the information about how I actually budget all of my expenses every month, and it also has a link to the spreadsheet that I use. So go and check that one out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.